I have always been viewed as someone who, jokingly Mother Teresa, because with the first name Teresa, at home and at work, and even early on in my jobs as a kid even, working and waiting on tables and coaching swim lessons and coaching a swim team. I always get so much joy out of watching everybody else succeed. And again, still not really putting together what a difference that was going to make in my life. It was just who I had become. And I celebrated so much watching everybody else succeed, and it would just hurt me when the kids didn't succeed. So it tapped into a side of me that obviously I knew that if I could make sure other people were successful or be there for them when they weren't, that fed me. And I wound up at Southwest Airlines, and it almost was as if Southwest Airlines was made for me, because it was a company that allowed you to be that way. And over the 30 years that I've been here, I've had so many opportunities to see what a difference it makes to work for a company that lets you care. And I have worked for some leaders at Southwest Airlines that were not that way, and have watched some of them come and go as a result of the fact that they didn't know how to put people first, or they tried and it was so unnatural that it wasn't sustainable. It was my very first leader. At the time, I was at an airport environment, and he ran the station, and he was not. I didn't know that much about Southwest when I started. I was young. I was 21. It was a great job, and I was going to be a customer service agent, work with the public. Thought this will be great. Wasn't really as aware of what the core values were of Southwest when I first got here. And so I got to experience him. And he was very gruff, very improper in the sense that the language he used was colorful, but it was back in the early 80s, so maybe not as concerning to some as it would be now. But he led with you do what I tell you, you don't ask any questions, we've got an airline to run, get these planes out on time. And on one side, that's exactly what we were there to do. We were there to run an airline, to get airplanes out. But there were so many other people, and even my supervisors who reported to him, that weren't like him. And so I started to realize that you didn't have to be gruff to get people to do their job. But that's how he managed. So when he managed that way, it was interesting to watch how people, and even myself, responded to him. You almost bury some of the caring you have in order to meet their leadership style, and it causes conflict. So even though I was pretty young, I knew at the end of the day that I was going to struggle with working with somebody who had that type of approach. And we worked together for a couple of years, and then he moved on to another location, and we got another new leader who was a much better blend of heart and profession. And that was when I really had a chance to even tap more into the fact that if you showed people you cared, if you put other people first, if you were willing to do what they were doing, walk a mile in their shoes, stand next to the employees, and do everything you asked anybody else to do, they would do anything for you. And that was really when I started to grow into understanding how I was raised, and being the type of person that cares, that there was a place for that in the workforce. There wasn't something you had to stifle or hide because it wasn't that it was inappropriate. You just had to use it the right ways. Well, I was attracted to it because I'd flown even as a college student, had flown to and from Dallas to Lubbock and back. My grandmother had passed away when we first moved to El Paso, and my mom and dad and I flew on Southwest to get back from El Paso to Dallas for her funeral. And it wasn't a very full airplane, but I was so moved by how fun everybody was. And even here we were having a very difficult time, and the flight attendants were caring. They were asking my mom and dad if they were okay. And just, you could feel a difference. You could feel the fact that they were engaging in a way that I don't think I would have picked up on. And so every time I had an opportunity to fly, it resonated with me. So I did know that Southwest Airlines was known as a company that hired fun people, that it was a young and up and coming company, and that it looked for employees who enjoyed the customer and who enjoyed the interaction with the public. So that's what drew me first. And the opportunity then to promote into leadership is what has kept me here, because it has given me a chance to really make a difference in people's lives, not just personally but professionally. And that has fed something that I just can't seem to step away from. We're lucky at Southwest that we first try to hire people who care. Our hiring process is looking for people who truly enjoy what they do. We call it the servant's heart, people who have a servant's heart, people who, especially if you're going to be in the service side of it, who enjoy serving, not somebody who just pretends they enjoy serving. We look for kind-hearted people. I mean, as we go through the interview process, it could be anywhere from how you dealt with the agent when they put you on the airplane to even the shuttle driver to the hotel front desk. If we get a report that an employee or a prospective employee hasn't been kind to somebody, that makes a difference for us. We won't hire somebody. So we've already set ourselves up to look for people who care. You're also now a company of 45,000 employees. So we're going to get employees who are qualified at what we need and do have a caring attitude when we interview them, but maybe do not necessarily translate that into their daily jobs. So over the years, it has been an interesting experiment, as if I can say so. When you hire somebody and you start to realize they're not the kind of person that you thought was a right fit for Southwest, the first thing to do is to find out why, and to sit down with that employee and find out what drew, your same question, why'd you come here? What drew you to Southwest? I think we have a higher purpose to explain to them what our core values are and to give that employee a chance to determine if they're going to be successful here. I have seen some people leave for all the right reasons, and they've been happy to leave because this was not where they wanted to be. And I've seen employees who thought because we care, that meant we care no matter how you perform. So you have to balance that. But I think the one thing that is missing in so many other companies that Southwest has such a handle on is that sitting down with employees and finding out what makes them tick, finding out what drives them, what makes them happy, what they get out of working at Southwest Airlines. Because if you determine that you're at a crossroads and this isn't the right place for somebody, then they should still have their dignity and move on. But not everybody can be successful here. So you have to enjoy who you work with. You have to be the type of person people enjoy being around. And especially in a leadership position, you have to care about what's happening to employees because they're people and they have lives and they can't turn those off when they walk through your doors. So you have to know that about your employees and tap into that.
You just said something I think that is very key, and this may sound a little strange to you, but I've heard some leaders in some companies say that it's not my job to get people to want to work here. It's not my job to motivate them. They're either motivated or they're not. What do you think about that?
It's a very interesting question, one we talk about a lot here. There does have to be a core sense in an individual that motivates them to come to work. They have to want to get up in the morning and want to live their life. So, but once they get to your place of employment, especially as a leader, it is your responsibility to make sure that the workplace is as engaging as it can be, as welcoming as it can be, and especially in our case, that you are living out what people expect at Southwest Airlines, a caring environment. And there are employees that we've had and that I've met over the years that are not just, they're not unmotivated to be here, they're just not happy individuals. And no, it's not my responsibility to make those people who are unhappy in their lives happy, but it is my responsibility that when somebody comes to work and they've done their part, to make sure that I'm doing my part, and I'm ensuring that the environment's engaging, and that I'm showing, my servant's heart and my leadership to them, because you spend a lot of time at work, and sometimes you spend more time at work than you do at home. So we take seriously that as leaders, you are responsible for keeping them engaged and helping keep morale up, and tapping into why an employee may not be happy, or maybe they don't appear to be that motivated, but they have for a year. Then you can't just ignore that. You have to find out what's going on. There obviously is something that's happened, so you need to reach out to them. We do not subscribe to you leave your personal problems at the door. You do, in the sense that the customer shouldn't have to pay for your personal problems, but your leaders ought to know what's going on with you and find out if there's something that's stopping you from delivering on your work promise that day. If you take the time to get to know your employees as you work with them every day, as you walk by them every day, if you engage even just 2 or 3 little minute engagements as you walk through your workplace, it builds. And so if you don't bother to ask somebody how they're really doing, except for every 6 months, or you don't stop and talk to somebody except once a year when you give them their performance appraisal or whatever else you may do, then it is going to take too much time, because you're trying to then build a relationship in a 10-minute conversation, where you should be building a relationship every day. Every time you interact with an employee, you should be building that relationship, because they will be so much more loyal to the company and to your mission if they know you care as a leader. And if you don't invest that time, and you have fooled yourself into thinking you don't have time if you don't look at every opportunity you interact as time invested in an employee.
Who do you kind of hold up on a pedestal as being the epitome of Southwest values?
Oh, it's easy. Colleen. Always have respected her. She has always been the heart and soul of Southwest Airlines. But when you actually get to really get to know her and to see how passionate and how personal the mission is for her to really care for people, it is so genuine that you can't help but to be driven by it and to admire it. And for somebody like me, it actually validates the fact that you can be successful as you progress in a company and maintain those values, because she's never compromised those. And our employees have been raised to believe that is part of Southwest Airlines, and that there will always be somebody kind of at the helm with a caring heart. And I think that is why we've been successful, and why the people who've come after her are only successful if they extend that caring heart. I think what sets her apart is that her actions are lived. She started early on writing notes to people when there was a death, or sending flowers at a good time or a bad time. And I have had numerous opportunities over the years for her to reach out to me because of a difficult situation. And she cares so deeply and it is shown in how she exhibits her caring. Give you an excellent example. I was diagnosed with breast cancer 4 years ago. Wound up having a double mastectomy, and the first thing she did was reach out to me to talk to me, because she also had breast cancer. It was years and years ago, and she's obviously done fine, but reached out to me to talk to me about her experience, to let me know she was there for me if I needed anything. Sent food, sent handwritten notes. She came to the funeral home this year when I lost my mother. Now she can't do that for 45,000 employees, obviously, but her actions have always backed up the words that she's used, and I think that is the key to what makes her different, because a lot of people can say they care, but then you don't see any action, you just hear the words, and she backs it up with her actions. I think she probably put the definition of leading from the heart and having a servant's heart, especially in the airline industry. And I would beg to say that she's probably left that mark on corporate America, period.
Absolutely.
Early on when we even started, one of the taglines was "Somebody up here loves you." And we used the word love in a space that had not been used, especially in the airline industry. Our stock symbol is LUV. So the fact that we were open about introducing to corporate America, into the airline industry, that we were going to have a product that loved you and a company that was going to serve you and who was going to appreciate that you were doing business with us versus we exist, you exist to keep us in business. Very early on, the customer became number one, and the difference that was going to set us apart was going to be our people, and was going to be how our people deliver on that promise, which meant how our flight attendants interacted with our customers, how our airport employees interacted with our customers. And we encouraged people from day one to be themselves. And so the silliness that you see on Southwest, and the jokes and some of the singing of the emergency announcements, all that does is continue to retrench in the airline industry that you can still be different, you can still care, you can still provide a fun experience for customers, especially in an industry that has not been so fun. After 9/11, we purposely took some humor out. We did not want our flight attendants right away to get back on those airplanes and start, making jokes and doing things that we've done before. We had to take a little bit of breather, and everybody had to not be buttoned up, not be uncaring, but be sensitive to what the public was experiencing. It didn't take long before our customers were like, "I missed that." So you knew quickly that you needed to bring that back. But we never took away the fact that we cared. We just had to be aware of the fact that the industry had changed, that there was a real sensitive time for the public, and that we needed to be sensitive to how we were going to respond to that. We have never lacked from feedback from our customers. I call them Southwest evangelists. We have customers who I think we actually should pay to work for us because they are so committed to our brand. And when you start to hear from them via email and via letters that they're A, they're glad we're still in the air, B, they look forward to getting on a Southwest plane, and I look forward to the jokes and the songs and the things that Southwest brought. It gave you a sense of we're going to be okay, and we would get back to normal. So when our customers are asking us to bring it back, and they're saying it to our flight attendants, and that's when you know you have the right and the responsibility to bring back something that, again, you just took a little break from, but the customers will definitely let you know, and they did, loud and clear. Well, the first thing you need to do is to get with the people that directly report to you first. Start with those who you influence every day, and ask them, where do you think we are? Why do you think we're not being successful? How much of it goes beyond just the daily work? Is there, no matter what product you sell, no matter what service you offer, you have to offer it to people. So if you do not understand people, and if you don't try to understand what drives them to either your service or your product, or people you lead, what drives them to even stay there under your leadership, you have to be bold enough to ask some very difficult questions. Am I standing in the way of our success? Is there something I'm doing that is not allowing us to be as successful? Are there ideas you have that we haven't brought forward? You have to tap into why the people that you touch every day first think you're not being successful, and then it has to work its way all the way down. Sometimes companies find that it's the smallest thing that they could be doing differently, and they wouldn't know it unless they work their way all the way to a frontline employee, and a lot of CEOs forget that. They look at just their C-suite, they look at just the people that they see every day, and they forget who may be the lowest level individual on that org chart that's delivering on that service and that or that product. And it could very well be the person that is making all the difference for you. And so you have to start with yourself. You have to start asking where am I helping and where am I hurting? And then you have to, through your leaders, get that pushed all the way down. Because if you have a good product and you are financially stable, but you are not as profitable as you would like to be, then there is probably something happening with you in your organization where people are disconnected. And if you don't find out where the disconnect is, you may not be able to turn that corner to get the profits that you want. If you truly believe that you're on this earth to make a difference in people's lives, and if you truly believe that you're part of something bigger, if you are not a heartfelt leader, you are passing up an opportunity to meet some incredible people along the way and to make a difference in people's lives that you'll never be able to articulate. And you just miss so much by not putting yourself out there. And I feel sorry for people who aren't willing to risk it, because they'll never know the amount of gratitude and fulfillment you can get personally and professionally if you do. It's worth every bump. It's worth every bit of pain. But I save every little thank you note I get. I save the notes that I get back from people when I was just doing what I thought we were supposed to do and what I knew I should do, and how it touched somebody. So I keep those to remind me that it's been worth the effort. And I know that I've made a difference in people's lives when they've gone through some rough things, because I've been able to share when I have. So I've been able to reach out and be somebody else's support, either losing a family member or breast cancer. And not because it gave me attention, but because it gave that person comfort. And I think if you do it, and I know I do it, because somebody's done it for me and I know how good that felt, I can't help but to want to pay it forward. And I'm fortunate in the fact that I have 2 daughters who are very much like me in that sense, and who already see the value in doing that and living their lives that way. And I know by the response I get from people, I know by even people that no longer work here that I've even terminated, who still correspond with me. I've had people thank me for telling them they didn't need to work here, because they've opened their lives to something completely different, because it wasn't the right place for them. And then you know you've made a difference in somebody's life, not just a difference in their 8-to-5 life. If people do not care about what they're doing, I don't care if it's their job or if it's being a parent or if it's being a caregiver, there has to be something within an employee, within a person, that makes them care. And if you don't think there is a place for that, I would question what makes you tick, what makes you care. And are you even showing the people that you work with and live with every day what a difference it can make when the heart is part of the equation? Doesn't have to be the only part, but it has to be part of the equation. I tell new prospective employees or anyone who's coming up, first of all, be willing to do whatever it takes. If you even start to say that's not my job, then you might as well finish that with, I'm not going to be successful. Because you should be willing to do whatever you can to make where you are successful and to show that you're willing to do whatever it takes to be successful. You need to learn to be articulate. In the days of social media, you need to be able to actually verbalize what you think instead of just text and email what you think. You need to be able to be polished enough to present, but you also need to remember that you have a personality, and that no matter what environment you're in, there's a good chance you can use part of that to convey your message. If you are in a more structured environment, then you will have to pick those opportunities and those times. But just even a structured professional environment doesn't mean that there is no personality in it. Obviously at Southwest, we're an airline. If we aren't safe, then we have nothing. So we take safety very, very seriously. Well, that's not a joking matter. So the other places where you can inject some personality, you should. And in some of the situations, you shouldn't. So it would be, be willing to take on anything that they ask you to do. Learn to communicate effectively. Learn to show an engaging side and look teamwork. I think teamwork is bigger now than it ever used to be. You've got to be able to work on a team. Just individual contributors are not as sought after as they were, years and years ago. And to find balance. Don't let whatever is happening, don't let your work life be your life. Find a balance, because it will make you a better employee and it'll make you a better person.
Excellent advice. Did you ever think you were indispensable?
No, I think that's part of Southwest Airlines. I'd like to think that if I left, I would leave a hole. And I think I probably would for a day or two, and then somebody else would run in here and fill it up. The fortunate part is we are raised at this company to realize that we are indispensable, in the sense that you should always have people who are working with you or for you that could take your place. And the sign of a good leader is when you are gone, there is somebody ready to take your place. So I know I would leave a void personally. I know there are some people that would miss having me here, but I would like to think professionally that I've done the responsible thing, and that Southwest Airlines would continue on and would not miss what I was bringing professionally. And then that's your responsibility. If you set yourself up to be indispensable and then you are gone, people will question your leadership abilities when there's nobody there to pick up where you left off.
I'm sure you've had plenty of people reporting to you over the years. As a senior vice president, I'm sure there's quite a span of folks. And you don't have to name any names, but of the people who have worked directly for you, how would you define the characteristics of that person that you felt was closest to being indispensable?
Incredible follow-through, timely follow-through, and a true connection with their team. The leaders that I've worked with or that have reported to me that really connect with their teams and really know how to get back to them when they have questions and help provide them the tools that they need with a sense of urgency to do their job would be probably the top three skills, because it takes discipline to be excellent at follow through, and it takes discipline to have a sense of urgency to get your employees the tools they need, and you can't do any of that if you haven't tapped into them. And that is one of the biggest, one of the most important feedback we get, and I think we get as leaders, is when our employees don't feel like we follow back up with them. If you have a consistent demeanor and a consistent approach as a leader, then people will come to you with whatever they need. If you are not consistent and they're not sure if it's a good day or bad day, you turn people off. So for me, I know it has been my communication skills, my people skills, and the fact that I am a consistent leader. I have got to honor what Southwest Airlines has become, and I have to make sure when I'm out there speaking about Southwest that that's what I am portraying. And it was very humbling to realize that I was going to stand in front of groups or speak with people that were going to share information with thousands of people, and they were going to look at me as, is she leading Southwest Airlines? Is that what Southwest Airlines has in a leader? And I'm proud to say it is, but it was a little frightening in the beginning to realize how global and how out front the role was going to be. especially for somebody who didn't want to go seek that in the first place. And Colleen actually gave me the best advice. She said, quit reading from a script and speak from your heart. And every time I do that, it's 900 times better. And when I have the few times I've tried to stick to the script, it has not worked for me. So if you know your business, it shouldn't be hard, but I can't help but speak from the heart. It's the way I was made. Not just for me, but for anybody who takes on a senior leadership role at this company. The employees are watching. And if you are not quickly conveying how seriously you take your job and how you know that they are what makes Southwest Airlines tick, it wouldn't have changed anything for me because that's just part of me. But it would have humbled me very quickly, and I think it could humble others very quickly when you realize that when you take on a leadership role of this magnitude, that it is less about you and more about the people that are reliant upon you and how much your decisions impact their lives and their professional environment. The interesting thing is to look back now at the age of 50 and everything I thought being a professional was, watching my father go to work in a suit and tie and aspire to do nothing but be a vice president, and how his job was everything. His job defined him. And I look at myself now, and I look that I'm fortunate that my job doesn't define me, but I love my job so much it lets me be me. But the thought of being a professional doesn't mean being disconnected, doesn't mean being unattached, and it doesn't mean setting yourself aside from everyone else. And maybe it's just Southwest, but it means that you have to be part of the team, and you have to be like everybody else, and you have to be one with everybody. You have a huge responsibility, and that doesn't mean you're always on display. People are always watching you, and you never underestimate the impact you make on others. But it's redefined what I thought the word professional meant, because I didn't know professional meant that you could care. I thought professional meant you had to run the business. So.